Welcome to the Nick and Matt Show, the disc golf podcast you've been looking for.
I liked caddying for him more than I liked caddying for Paul. I love caddying for Paul, don't get me wrong.
How much would you pay to play disc golf? And to me, that kind of gives me an idea about what these elite courses, this is where I'm going back to. It gives me an idea about what these elite courses could or should charge.
If I was to go to Europe and play the Beast, I would happily pay $50 because that's the experience of it. Yarba, on the other hand, is one of the most beautiful looking courses in the world, and it would be a dream to play there. If I had one opportunity, only had to play one round there, I honestly would probably pay $100 just to say I've played Yarba disc golf course.
$100.
Anywhere else though, I've never looked at another course and said, yeah, I would totally pay that much.
For me, if I can play a free course or I can choose to play a course that's $40, I will do the $40 course every now and then.
Every so often.
Here we are. Welcome everybody to episode number 3. Wow, it seems like we've been doing this a long time, Nick. What do you think?
I know, right? 3 weeks. It's going by pretty quick so far. We've had a lot of things that we've worked on, a lot of things that we think are good, some bad. But no, we've been having a blast doing it. It's going by really quickly, actually.
Yeah, so in 3 weeks, we have done 3 shows. We've had thousands of listens or views, and we thank everybody for that. We think if you like it, you'll let us know, and you have, which is excellent. We're announcing we actually are on iTunes now. So go subscribe there. And if you're there already, why not hit a review on the stars and give us a review that says hopefully some good things. Nick, have you ever done a review on a podcast?
I have not, actually. This will be the first one.
Awesome. So now you know that it matters. Maybe the next podcast, we can actually...
I'm going to have to do that.
Yeah, we're going to have to do that and get it up for you. So tonight, we're going to be talking about some relevant topics because that's what we like to do here. Mm-hmm. PDGA majors, which obviously includes Worlds. We talked about that last week. How about the Women's National Disc Golf Championship? That's honestly, that's going to take us back a little bit in history there to understand that. Another topic, Nick, have you ever been hit by a disc?
I don't think personally I have, unless, I don't know, I'd really have to think about that, but I know I've hit someone with a disc.
Okay. So we are going to be discussing getting hit by a disc. So that is going to be interesting. We did a poll over at Disc Golf Discussions, a Facebook group, and we've had over 500 responses to that topic. So we're going to talk about that. And then I think there's a topic we're going to talk about where people might just write us off right away. And Nick, you and I talked about this a little bit. The topic of which is harder, golf or disc golf? And we're going to define that, but what's your initial reaction to that conversation?
Well, our little conversation that we had was about a 45-minute Skype call last night about it. So it's a very touchy subject. I think it's very hard to compare the two. But my answer will come in about 40 minutes.
Okay, yeah. So we put that up on our Facebook page, and we're going to try to put things up like that to give you a preview of the shows, also to invite your feedback to be a part of the conversation before we even go live. But if you're listening on the podcast right now, we invite you to come over to our Facebook page, The Nick and Matt Show, and join us live on Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Just jump in, be a part of the conversation. We may actually respond to what you're saying live, and you'll end up on a podcast. Also, we don't want to miss out on this one cool fact that we've got Matt Krueger of UDisc.
He's Mr. UDisc himself.
Mr. UDisc. So we're going to talk to him. We're going to find out exactly what his title and role is there a little bit. But besides interviewing him, he's going to be our guest host tonight, joining in on the conversation. We've brought in really well-known, and we'll even call him famous, commentators, and Terry Miller. Mm-hmm. We've brought in the trick shot king, Simon Lizotte. Mm-hmm. Just amazing vlogs and podcasts lately. And last week, We even had the world's best disc golfer's wife. And
my best friend.
Yes, I was just going to say, your best friend.
Yep. Hannah Macbeth.
Hannah Macbeth. And so, like, we've had a wide variety. And tonight, we're bringing in Matt Krueger. So let's just see real quick. Can you touch on just a little bit? We brought a topic up last week that got a lot of response. And it was on how much would you pay to play disc golf? So, like, you read through all the comments. Would you just, like, kind of talk about maybe what you saw and heard from the community?
So I think talking about one of the things in that subject was we talked about free courses and pay-to-play courses. And we talked about eliminating free courses. And the reason we said that, it wasn't, obviously, Matt and I love free courses. And it's one of the best ways to grow the sport is actually having free courses out there. We are only saying, for the sake of argument, if there were no free courses, if every single course had to pay a certain amount, what would that be? So we did see some comments of people saying, oh, free courses are the way to go. And there's, to a point, I do agree with that. Obviously, pay-to-play courses should be in better maintenance and everything like that. But no, we did talk about that. I said that if I was playing 2 special courses, I would pay kind of a significant amount of money. Like I said, for the Beast, I would pay $50 for like an all-day pass to play the Beast. And Yarva, I'd pay $100. Some of the some of the comments that I got on that were like, "Oh, for him, money must not be an issue," or like, "Dude, I'm saying like this is once in a lifetime. I'm not going to go out and every single day pay $100 to play Yarva disc golf course. That's absolutely
sure you
believe
are.
Me, if I can afford that, I would.
You drive around Dynamite. Yeah. You're obviously rolling in the dough. And to be fair, I took a soundbite that I thought, might get a reaction. That's what I'm good at, and people loved it and they responded to it. And the reason I brought it up, just to wrap up this conversation for now, I brought it up in that way again because I wanted to, as I said that week, eliminate the option to play a free course. So that way we could figure out what disc golf was worth to you. Mm-hmm. And the only way we could do that is by eliminating the free courses, because otherwise everyone defaults to go, where it's
just
easier
go play
on their
the free
wallet.
Course instead of the $40 course. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and I'm going to bring up Matt Krueger himself. Let me just get his audio set here. Okay, so we should be good. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, wonderful. So can you tell us real quick, we have listeners and we've got watchers, they can see you, but like, what is your role at UDisc? Not necessarily the history, but what is your role there?
So my current role is essentially I'm the lead Android developer, and historically I'm the person that created the app, so it started off being just me. And these days I'm the lead Android developer, and then of course running a business. That's probably half my job. Yeah. In addition to the technical stuff.
Wow. So can I ask this question? Is it going to cause controversy? Do you like iPhone or Android better? Or are they just 2 different platforms to you?
I wouldn't say it'll cause controversy. So I like both. I personally use an iPhone. However, I'm an Android developer. Maybe it's sort of a weird juxtaposition, but it kind of allows me to have the best of both worlds. So I get to play with Android phones all day and write code for Android phones all day. But when I'm done with my day, I'm pulling out my iPhone.
Wow. If there's anybody to listen to on the topic of debate between iPhone and Android, I feel like it's Matt.
Matt's the guy.
Awesome.
It might be true. There's been a few heated battles between me and my family and various friends over this, but in the end, I like both of them a lot for different reasons. They're it just depends what you're trying to get out of it, really.
Yeah, and that's usually if you want to keep your friends, you kind of have to go down that road. It depends what you want to get out of it.
Yeah, it's almost like politics.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Well, we all love politics, and all I'll say is we don't want to bring politics into this show, but I want to say that besides saying love everybody, there's a serious issue going on in the world, in the United States, in your neighborhoods right now, and I think everybody needs to pay attention and consider deep inside of themselves what that means to be motivated by love for you. Okay, so that's all I'll say on that. Let's move on to Matt. Was this planned? You went on Smashbox, and they're buddies of ours. I don't care calling them out. We can take some of their followers. They can have some of ours. But you were on Smashbox last night. Was that already pre-planned before I invited you?
Yeah, actually 2 weeks ago we reached out to them because we had 3 big things that we announced this week, and so 2 weeks ago we kind of had a target date for when we were going to have all this done. And I said to them, hey guys, the first week in June, could we be on the podcast? Because we have some big announcements. And then you reached out, I think, last week.
Yeah.
Right? Or maybe, I can't remember. But
yeah.
Nice.
yeah, so yeah, we did jump the gun a little bit on that, but it's just good timing because there's a lot going on, and the disc golf season is starting again. So it's a good time to remind everybody that we exist.
So Nick, do you use UDisc?
I do, every single round that I play.
And I'm sure Matt, if you wanted to right now, could pull it up and see how good you're playing lately. Do you have access to everybody's stats if you want to?
Well, I mean, you couldn't build an app without being able to see the database. I mean, yes, but it's not something I spend time doing. There's too many other important things to be worried about.
How long would it take, and this is just a hypothetical, how long would it take right now if I said, hey, go find Nick's latest round for you, like where you are right now, practically?
5 seconds.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so that's cool.
I'm not going to do it though. I want to focus.
Yes, focus up. Oh, by the way, Hannah Macbeth says hello, Matt.
Hi, Hannah.
Wait, was she saying it to me, Matt, or that Matt? We're sitting side by side.
That's a good point, actually.
So tonight, it's actually the Nick and Matt Squared show, okay? So, okay.
There you
That's
go.
awesome.
So, yeah, you rolled out a few things. Again, we want you to be a part of the conversation tonight, but we also don't want to have you miss out on the opportunity to share what's going on. Can I just, hit the titles of them and you tell us just a little bit about them? That would probably be a really cool way to do this. So,
Sounds good.
I saw that you rolled out team play, which, Nick, if you haven't heard, that's you can do doubles and maybe more than doubles, and I'll let him mention that. And then league scoring. So now I'm sure everybody's thought of everything for years, but you did it. But the point is, I've thought about that and you guys responded to it. Excellent league scoring. So now you don't have to have score cards in physical sense. And then desktop, or I don't know how you're announcing it, but web browser map locations, for courses. But it's I believe it's through your desktop. So maybe just hit on those new options, I guess is what you would call them for UDisc.
Yep. So team play, essentially you can now score doubles or triples or 3 versus 1 or 3v3v3, whatever you want to do. So you can essentially group players together and have them on a team and then score, one team at a time. This is by far the most requested thing that we've had over the last 8 years of UDisc existing. Yeah. We've had literally thousands of requests for this, and it's just something we didn't quite have time to get to. So now if you're going to go out and play doubles with your friends, or if maybe you have some beginners with you and you want to pair up a beginner with a more advanced player versus, the best player or something like that, you can keep score. And the big benefit to this is that in the past you could sort of do it, but it would impact your personal stats. Mm-hmm. And so we would get people complaining that guy didn't shoot -18 on this course. And then it turned out that it was somebody playing doubles. And so now if you do play doubles, or we call it teams because it's not just doubles, then it won't go on the leaderboards and it won't impact your personal stats. And it just, it allows you to actually keep score without negatively, skewing your stats in a certain direction.
Nice.
So that's essentially teams. If you update to the latest version, when you're finishing creating a scorecard, there's a choice of singles or teams. And if you choose teams, then you can drag the players around and choose how many people you want on each team.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I have a lot of more casual buddies who are really getting into the sport right now. So we've been going out playing all the time. But one of the things that we do is, if I'm the odd man out, I'll usually play by myself versus 2 double teams, or there'll be 8 of us and we want to score doubles. Instead of writing, Nick, Matt, Seth, now we actually have the option to make doubles teams. And yeah, that's super awesome.
One quick question on that. Is it going to track though, a history of your doubles scores and who you played with, or is that just going to kind of erase it out for you? What's that going to look like?
So that's a good question. We haven't actually done anything to show stats for specific pairings, but it's something that we can easily add, and we probably will. It's just a matter of doing it. We wanted to get the scoring out first because it's something that, like I said, it's the most requested thing that we've ever had, and we've been wanting to do it for a long time.
That makes sense.
Yeah, man, this is not the interview show, but I do want to ask, how are you prioritizing what, and I know on Smashbox you mentioned it's not a feature, but how are you prioritizing what projects you work on? Is it purely based off of response from the community, or is it based off of your hopes and dreams for the app?
Historically it's been purely based off what people are asking us for, and we kind of keep a tally of how many times people are asking for things, which is a good way to gauge what people want. So our customer support team essentially will look at what people are requesting, and we'll just kind of put tallies next to it, and then we'll prioritize it based on that, and then what other objectives we have. And we're kind of known for being like, we keep score, like we're good at keeping score.
Mm-hmm.
And so we always have to put some more emphasis on that versus like people ask for all sorts of things. And some of them are good ideas, but it's like, yeah, we could do that, but it's better for us to really just, have our core product be really, really good and really flexible. And some of the biggest things that we've been missing are, doubles and teams.
Yeah.
And then other things like match player skins, and those things are coming. We just need to do a little bit at a time because we can't do everything at the same time.
No, that's got me kind of curious. What, if you can say this, what is one of the most like bizarre requests you've gotten?
Yeah, I think I've talked about this someplace before, but people have asked for like a disc golf dating app, and I'm sold. I need it. I don't think that would go quite how you want it to go.
Just for our viewers, I was the anonymous guy who asked, "Can we get a disc golf dating app?" That was me.
So Nick's like, "Hey, did you get any weird requests lately?" So yeah. that was team play. League scoring is exactly what it sounds like, right? Is there anything you want to touch on that?
I don't need to say too much about it. It's essentially, so if you're familiar with UDisc Live, we've essentially built a way to kind of have a leaderboard like the UDisc Live type of situation for a local league. And right now it's you can apply if you'd like to join. It's udisc.com/league. You can submit an application if you're somebody that runs a league, and we're approving more every day. We're not letting everybody in at the same time because we want to make sure that we can kind of manage all of it appropriately, because it takes, as you can imagine, when you're running a live event, if there's a problem, like somebody has to be there to help you. And especially when there's more people learning it for the first time, we just need to make sure that everybody is having a good experience. So we're letting in a few people at a time. And today, actually, we just let in a whole bunch more. And so over the next few weeks, we should ramp up to a few hundred leagues, I would think. So we're working on that.
Your buddy, you give him a shout out, Josh, right? Your partner over at UDisc. He just commented with the apply to run your leagues URL. So shout out to him.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah. And then we see a lot of other people commenting. Again, if you're listening to this podcast later,
shout out Wes.
Yeah. Shout out to Wes over at Underground, Discraft Underground. But yeah, if you're listening to this later on the podcast, always feel free to join us live if you want to have fun with the conversation and let us know what you're thinking. We've got people all over right now joining in to say hi. And then finally, desktop. What are you calling that? I called it the desktop or web browser, or what are you calling that, where you can check out courses now in a different way?
So what we've done is we've finally built a website for you to be able to access the course directory that's in UDisc. So traditionally, you could only view courses in the app, and that's great, but sometimes you're on a computer and you want a bigger screen, or you want to be able to, plan a road trip or something, and it's just a little bit easier to do when you're on a computer. So we built a totally custom experience that is, you can make it full screen and have a really huge map of the whole world and see like all the courses within, 5 states or something on one map. And it clusters when using layout, so you can see like the whole world. And you can search, and you can look at course conditions and reviews and ratings. And actually the leaderboards from the app are accessible now on the web. So really what it is it's just a way to view all the rich course information that we have in UDisc. The course photos are even there. And you can do some searching and things like that so that you can easily find, courses that are in your area and sort them by rating. Or if you're planning to go to a different city, you can search for that city. It'll show you all the courses there, and then you can sort them by rating and choose where you want to play. It's kind of a natural evolution of the whole thing. So we've got over 10,000 courses in the directory, and now it's all available on any device with a web browser. You don't have to be using the app.
Yeah, like this is incredible, the day and age we live in. Obviously, you had to do the work to put this together. And so when I say this, there's no slight to that at all. But the crowdsourcing, how amazing is it to work in a generation where you can like procure all of this information and it just builds, and you've created a way for them to do that. And now you have all of this. You go, hey, I want to build this platform online where we can see it all and have pictures and ratings and filter. Like, it's really amazing, right?
Well, and to your point, crowdsourcing, that's really how UDisc became what it is from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. So I got this guy, Derek Ton, who is a very prolific course collector. He gave me all of the Minnesota courses that he had curated himself. And so I put those in, and then I was able to personally curate a few other states around me. But then after that, we opened it up for crowdsourcing, and that's how the directory became what it is, just people contributing and telling us about courses.
Nice.
And it's pretty cool to see what it's grown into from the early days of, we actually just put an article on our blog the other day. So Alan Risley, AJ Risley's dad, he's the guy that made the first course directory for the PDGA. He made like a printed course directory that he typed on a Commodore 64 and sold them for $5 at a tournament. That was the first course directory. I think it was in the early 80s. And it's just really cool to see, like, that was also crowdsourced. You know, people were actually mailing him in the mail, like, here's a course, like, here's where the course is, here's how to get there, here's what kind of baskets it has.
Can you make the directory?
And so it's kind of right, exactly.
Yeah.
And before we finish this topic, I need to give a huge shout out to Luke Houserath and Tyler Massey. They are the other two full-time employees at UDisc. Tyler is the one that built the entirety of the online course directory, and Luke built most of the league stuff that we're just launching. And those guys have been really just killing it. They're awesome, and we have been loving having them as additions to our team.
Nice.
So it's not just me and Josh anymore. There's 4 of us.
Nice. So you said this started up about 8 years ago? Is that what you said? Like just UDisc in general?
March of 2012. Yep.
Nice. So 8 years ago, you thought of this idea that potentially other people were thinking about, but you actually acted on it. You came up with this idea. You came up with probably the best disc golf app that anyone could have asked for, especially when it comes to live scoring, when it comes just scoring with your casual buddies, the stats that go along with it. Like Matt, we always call him Statgram. You know, he's a fan of stats. He loves that kind of stuff. And so you came out with this app, 8 years ago, and now you're the live scorer for PDGA major events. Like, did you see this vision kind of like when you started it, or is it more you just want to help out the community a little bit, and where it goes, it goes?
All of this has been about helping disc golfers play more disc golf, because I am a disc golfer myself, as you can imagine, and it was frustrating to find courses, and that's really the genesis of the whole thing. It was just frustrating with a smartphone to find courses when you were on the go, and everything that's come after that has really just been like, what can we do to serve the disc golf community? When the whole live scoring thing started, that was Steve Dodge was starting the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and he reached out and said, hey, we want really good live scoring. Can you guys build something for us? And it was something that was already like on our bucket list that we really wanted to do someday. Like we really wanted to build like a really nice modern live scoring platform. And the Disc Golf Pro Tour starting gave us that extra kick to do it in like a very short, we didn't have much time. We had like 4 or 5 or 6 months maybe to build it. And that was the first website we'd ever built.
Yeah.
So it was very big, tall order.
So can I tell two quick stories? One is when I first met you, it was at Maple Hill. Shout out to Maple Hill. That's our local course here to Nick and Matt. Mm-hmm. I should have wore it tonight. I think I have the first ever like live like scorer like UDisc shirt.
The black one?
Yes. It's the black one. It's a little small for me, but it shows off my non-muscles. But like I do have that, and I'm always like, should I frame this or should I wear this proudly? So I do have that. And then I'm trying to think here. Could you answer this question? And then I think we're ready to move on to some other topics. But do you think that UDisc, just from your perspective, did you get lucky as in right time, right place, like with your talents, your abilities? Or do you think that if we were here and you didn't do anything, that we would still be here without something? You know what I mean? Like, were there other people that would have filled in the gap if you didn't? Like, I know that's kind of just purely like hypothetical, rhetorical, but like, what is your thought on that?
Well, so let's be clear, like the idea of UDisc, it's not a novel idea. It's not like some, crazy thing that was hard to think of. There are a million people that were like, oh, there should be a good app for disc golf. It's really just about putting in the time, and it's hard to really quantify. I know I've said this other places before, but like the amount of time it takes to build something like UDisc is really, it's a lot. It's not just something you do in your free time. And if you do it in your free time, it's 40 hours a week of free time. It's not, and that's, the
it's
beginning.
Full-time
now
free
it's
time.
80 hours a week. Yeah. It's like 100% of your efforts have to go towards something to make it, to the point that it is. And now there's 4 of us doing this like 60 or 70 or 80 hours a week. Yes, somebody else probably would have done something eventually. Some of it was right place, right time. I just happened to graduate college in 2008. And then I had 4 years of working, for a company and wanted to do something for myself. And like, just everything came together at the right time. Technology came around, smartphones got better, became easier to build apps. all the things just kind of fell in the right place.
And Steve Dodge asked the question or the prompt as just as you can see the Disc Golf Pro Tours going. I mean, that's Steve Dodge too. So like I can remember, because I'm local to Maple Hill where Steve's house is and all that stuff, I remember him going, "Hey Matt, do you know of any apps that like I could track stats with?" And I'm like, because as Nick said, like I've gotten the nickname before for being Stat Graham, and so just because I like talking numbers and details, and so I really appreciate your app. And I said, well, I found this like golf app where I can track each shot that I throw. Was it on the fairway, off the fairway? And it was like a golf app, very rudimentary. And he's like, "Oh, that's cool. Maybe like we'll check it out." And next thing I know, he's like flying you guys in or whatever to the Vibram at that time, and there we are.
So he did not fly us in.
You pedaled your bikes there.
Yeah.
So okay, awesome. Well, Nick, I think we're ready.
No, I didn't know that story.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to say that was me. I'm saying I can remember the prior to UDisc, and not everybody can say that. Nick.
Oh, for sure.
Do you remember prior to UDisc?
No, because it was 2012 and I started playing legitimately in like 2013. So
yeah. So I guess that's all I'm trying to say is I can remember that there was a need, and I remember Steve asking me that question, and I was like I'm not at all an app developer, programmer, or anything. So like I have no ability, but I was like, oh, yeah, there's an app I'm using. So
that's awesome. Well, thanks if you helped him find us. That's pretty cool.
I don't know. I was surprised when he did. I was like, wow, there's someone out there who's going to develop this. That's pretty cool. So that's really neat. So Nick, I think we're ready to move on to the next topic. What do you know that's relevant to the news world today or even of last week? Give us an update.
World Championships are pushed back. Spoiler alert. I'm sure everyone in the disc golf world has seen it by now, but Worlds have been pushed back to 2021. So all majors this year, except for potentially USDGC, are now pushed back. No European Open, no Worlds, no US Women's DGC, but there's a potential for the US Women's National Championship. I think that's what it's called?
Yeah, so the potential, it's been announced, the Women's National Disc Golf Championship. Now, interestingly enough, did you see after Worlds was announced canceled, because it was that crunch time, June 1st, did you see anybody, Paige Pierce made a post, and I don't know if others did, but that's one that I saw. And she was, I'm just going to summarize, I don't need to put words in her mouth, but she more or less said, like, can't we push this back? Like, let's have it, I don't know if she said let's have it in December, but that was the feeling I got. It was like, let's just push Worlds back. Like, by then, maybe everyone can travel and we can do a World Championship. The PDGA website, after I read it, said ultimately, and it wasn't in response to Paige, but they had obviously done their due diligence. And it pretty much said, like, Worlds takes, like, you can't just pull off Worlds in 2 or 3 months and do it right. And so even to push it back, like, that's going to be an issue. And I can kind of say that firsthand. We're not running Worlds, but like at Kids Disc Golf, we run the U.S. National for juniors. And we plan that from the day after last year to the next year. It's a full year event. So, but yeah, all the Worlds are pushed back, including no majors at all. So, well, that's not true. There was going to be no major for women if that was the case.
For women, yep. United States Disc Golf Championship is still, at the moment, potentially a go. But
So, right. And I saw that too when I was reading USDGC. Okay. They keep alluding to, they don't want to say like for sure. And I understand that nobody can, but like that event is supposed to happen. And so what we saw, and this is what I brought up Paige, we saw women commenting on there saying like, can't we have the women's national or US women's, like
potentially open up a women's female pro open field for the USDGC, which I thought was a great idea. Obviously, there's a ton of time and planning that goes into that, but I mean, right now it's June and that event's not till October. If that's something where, if the USDGC is planning to go on, then they should go on with, before the Women's National was announced, but they should go on with the thought of, let's add the FPO side to this. And that seems like the direction that it's going right now. I kind of briefly, as I was at work today, just read up on the Women's Nationals held at Winthrop alongside the USDGC. I think the last time that it was 1999 and 2000. So it's been just about 2 decades before that event's been held. And I think that's pretty exciting. Like, I enjoy watching the USDGC coverage. I mean, going to be enjoying watching the women try to attack that field, and just curious on how they go out and play it.
And I'm bringing up UDisc again, but maybe you have some insight into that. But like, have you been reached out to for like, hey, if we add the women's field, will you be able to do that? Or is that just like a non-conversation and they just expect that you can?
I think it's closer to the second thing you said. So essentially, we're scoring all the PDJ majors. So we haven't officially talked to them yet today. I probably should have done that before this podcast, but I think it's just assumed that we will be scoring that.
Nice.
Yeah, so cool.
Yep.
So how long have you been playing disc golf, Matt?
See, I started really seriously playing in about 2006, so 14 years now. I did play in 1998 when I was 12. I played like 4 rounds because a course opened half a mile from my house, and somebody told me about it, and I played a few times and then didn't play again until I was in college. But
okay, so you and I, so we have the same names, and I don't know, do you like stats, or is that just something that's getting applied to you because you do UDisc?
I mean, stats are fun. I definitely think they're fun. I like math. I wouldn't say that like I'm that great at stats, honestly. Okay. Josh is definitely the stats genius. Nice. But yes, I do very much enjoy looking at my stats and like using them to improve and things like that.
Nice. I'm just finding what we have in common. You work with your business partner named Josh, and I work with my business partner at Kids Disc Golf named Josh. I mean, how many kids do you have?
Just one.
Okay, well, I've got 4, so if anything's to tell you anything.
I feel like I'm being pushed out of my show. I mean, maybe it's going to be the Matt and Matt show next week. Who knows?
Oh, it's fine.
Okay, so before we move on from the women's national championship, I just feel like, and maybe I'm stirring the pot for no reason, but I feel like USDGC has been very tight with their event always. There's always been this cry like, hey, maybe we can have like a women's field or like a play-in field or like an AM division. They're always like, more or less the way I see it is they're like, no, like we're just going to make this, it's one division, one championship. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. Do you think that played into not calling it USWDGC because there was concern that it would appear that they created another division for the event? And so instead they're like, we'll call it Women's National Championship. You know what I mean? So like, and I get there's the history there. So like, they're like, hey, it's historical. Like, let's change it back to that name. And also one other point, and I'm going to let you comment, Nick, on this, is like Kristen Tatar would be the defending champion and she may not be able to make it. And so like, it's not really, it's not a matter of fairness, I suppose, but like, that's part of it, I'm sure too.
I think that, yeah, I mean, the whole name change with it, I don't know if it's necessarily they don't want it to come off like they're the ones who started this up, but I don't know, it's kind of weird. Hopefully Kristen will be able to, and all the Europeans, the Estonians, everyone will be able to come overseas and play this event. Obviously, I'm sure if it was the U.S. Women's DGC, Kristen would love to come and defend her title, but I think at the same time, that's like every single tournament. You know, some people don't go back to the same tournaments every single year. Obviously, being a major, though, you want to get the highest caliber of players to it. So I think if travel bans lift and everything like that, you'll see a lot of players from over the pond coming back and checking it out.
Yeah, so U.S. Women's is supposedly going to have a major if that happens. I mean, they announced it. That's their plan. They're going to shoot for that. So
I think it was confirmed that it's a major. I read that somewhere. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, the PDGA obviously has a vested interest in some way to pull off any event that they can. I mean, if it makes sense to do it, meaning with the guidelines or state regulations, like I believe the PDGA, it's in their best interest to run as many events, big ones as they can. So if they're able to pull this off, it's obviously, I think it's going to behoove them. It's going to be good. So
I'm just looking through the comments really quick, just people commenting live. And this is someone that I know, Nick Goodman, asked. Question for you, Matt. Will there be a UDisc update where the putting/accuracy practice can be an actual game? It would be sweet to play against others for rankings. So pretty much what I'm getting out of that is there going to be a game involved in UDisc when it comes to putting? Kind of like the Perfect Putt 360, I guess. That's generally what I'm taking from that.
I guess I didn't mention before, but when COVID-19 kind of took over the world, we pivoted from what we were originally working on, and we decided to build some tools that were good for social distancing since people were putting at home. Mm-hmm. and not able to go to the course. So we actually did add a putting practice mode and an accuracy practice mode into the app, so that already exists. I think what he's asking is there a way to compete directly against a friend?
Yeah.
To see who's the better putter. And we haven't really thought through what we're going to do more with that, but there already exist leaderboards for the putting practice and the accuracy practice. So if you go to the More tab and click leaderboards, you should be able to look at leaderboards for putting and accuracy. And then there should be a filter to filter it with friends only. So you could theoretically right now have all your buddies go and do putting and then see a leaderboard of who's the best for that day,
awesome.
or that week, or that month.
Cool.
So it sort of exists.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. That's awesome that even exists in general. So Nick, that hopefully answered your question. And he said the accuracy game has been great too. So
awesome.
Yeah, it was quite fun to build that. It was I think Josh just was like, yeah, we should have an accuracy after we did the putting thing. Putting was kind of an obvious, everybody's putting right now. Let's make a way
exactly.
To help people putting. And Josh was like, we should have accuracy too. And it was like, okay, that's great. How are we going to do this? And
I'm curious how good stats are going to be with Circle 1 and Circle 2 putting after the COVID-19 when we can get back to the Pro Tour and everything like that. I'm very curious. I've never been too into stats and everything. Obviously, I want to know what I need to work on after a tournament, but I'm pretty excited to see how the top 10 players are going to come out of COVID-19. So
yeah, that's maybe one other thing to mention before we get too far away is that UDisc Live is back this weekend on Saturday with the Minnesota Majestic.
Sweet.
And so James Conrad, Kevin Jones, Paul Uliberry,
who just had the sickest
Katrina
trick
Allen.
Shot video, by the way.
Yeah.
Did you see
awesome.
that?
Yeah.
Did you see
I meant to text you about it.
Yeah.
I wish we could have gotten a video in this, but
Well,
everyone go check out Uliberry's trick shot video that he did. It's insane. I don't want to spoil it, but it's fire.
We can describe it for our listeners, though, because even if we pulled it up, if you haven't seen it, here's what he does, right? He throws it through 2 field goals. So that is, I don't know the exact distance, but that's what, 350?
Yeah.
Or is it, it's somewhere in there, right? It's 100, or what would it be, 150 yards? Do you know?
Yards, right?
What is it?
Or 120 yards.
120
yards.
Yeah, because I think each end zone's 10 yards. So yeah, it should be 120. So what's it?
This is a disc golf show, everybody. We don't play football or
I'm a very skinny guy. I was never really into football.
But here's what he did. He threw it from behind 1 field goal. So picture that, the length of the field, and it went through the other field goal. First of all, try that alone. That's impressive. Then he did that not only that distance, but accurate enough that it went into a basketball goal on the backside of the far field goal post, and it went in. I don't know how many tries he did, but regardless, you'd have to try. What?
I'm just kidding.
You would have to. I thought he had insider information. You would have to try a long time to make that happen, regardless, or just be really good. So maybe that's what it was. So, what we're gonna do? Actually, you know what? I want to move on, but I'm Stat Graham, and I want to ask one more thing. I was at Maple Hill, and you're going to hear Maple Hill come up all the time, people. That's our local course. But I was at Maple Hill, and I was throwing a hole, and I said, man, I wonder how hard this hole actually plays. Is there a way for you, not that you guys do it or you curate it, but could you look at Maple Hill, hole 4, everybody that's played it, let's see what the average is. Everybody.
Yeah, we could do that. The problem is that we don't necessarily know how good each individual player is, so there might be a bunch of beginners out there that are getting 12s on the hole or something.
But if you look at stats,
no one should 12 hole.
But
4.
Nick Carl, 12 hole 4.
That's the downhill. That's a little short downhill.
But no, where I'm going with this, and then we're literally going to move on. Where I'm going with this is, though, with stats, you should be able to look at and get a median at least. The outliers knock them off both ways. All the aces and all the 12s. But that's interesting. Okay, cool. So let's move on. We're going to play a game called Judge That Disc Golfer. Okay, so we're doing it earlier in the game here. Earlier in the show. And I don't know if I'm going to cut this part out for our podcast listeners and move it to the end. I'm not sure. But here it is. Earlier on in the show, it's called Judge That Disc Golfer. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up here as a video, and then I'll explain the rules to you as we go. So here we go.
Judge That Disc Golfer, the game show where you judge a disc golfer you've never met.
Hey, man, what's your name?
Quinn.
All right, Quinn. So you're on the Nick and Matt show. We've got my co-host here, Nick, listening, and this week we have on Matt Krueger, one of the owners, or I'm probably listing him wrong there, but the inventor and programmer behind UDisc. So he's on here today. They're going to play this game called Judge That Disc Golfer. All right. And so we're going to ask you some questions. We're going to see if they can figure it out, okay? Right. So first question is just in general, how long have you been playing disc golf?
I played like 5 years ago and then kind of stopped for a couple years and just picked it back up like 4 months ago.
Okay. So you've been playing again recently for about the past 4 months.
3 months.
3 months.
Not February.
3 months. So is this in relation to COVID-19?
100%.
100%. Okay. 100%. Awesome. Well, welcome back. Can I ask, do you have a PDGA rating?
PDGA rating? I do not have a PDGA rating.
Okay. So I was just trying to give them a little bit of insight into who you are and how they might guess. Okay. So here we go. Question. Okay, hold on a second. Before we get to that first question, I just realized, Nick, this is totally not fair going up against Matt. He said it takes him 5 seconds to figure out stats on a player. So
I'm not going to do it. Don't worry.
If Quinn,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So like how far he throws, like you can be like, hey, he used our distance app, and here's what he. No, that's incredible.
That's actually so funny.
Okay, so I'm just joking. I just thought that was really cool. So all right, here we go. Back to the first question, and then we'll pull you guys back up. Number 1 for the game. How far can you throw a disc?
How far can I throw a disc? I would say...
Okay, so we asked him, how far can he throw a disc? Based off of all you've seen in that first 30-second intro, we're going to start with Nick. You understand the rules more or less. The way I'll explain it to you, Matt, is the closest is the winner. Because unless you hit it on the head, you obviously win. But the closest...
So it's not Price is Right rules?
Not Price is Right rules.
Okay.
Or else we'd all be doing very bad in this game show.
$1.
Okay. So Quinn said, we said, how far did you throw? So Nick, what is he going to say based off of what you know about here? And I can actually pull it up so you can still see him there. So yeah. We're judging him right now.
Yeah.
We're judging him hard.
I feel so bad saying it like that. Yeah. We're not judging
How far do you think he can throw a disc?
I'm going to say 300 feet.
300 feet is what he is going to answer. Okay, so 300 feet. Now, the only thing we ask, Matt, and we're not going to tell you what to do, but we ask that you don't do like 301, like Price is Right style. We ask that. Yeah. I mean, if that's really what you were going to say, then say it. But okay, what's your answer, Matt? What do you think he's going to say?
My gut feel was 350.
Okay. So that's pretty close to what we've been guessing for most players because...
He's been checking the stats.
He's been checking the stats. Okay, here we go. I'm going to pull it up. Let's see what he answers.
My distance driver, I could throw about 150.
Okay, 100. Wow.
Oh man.
We're laughing.
Well, I guess you went next.
Not gonna lie. So every single week we've gone over just about every single week with how far these players can throw. But oh my gosh, they're the most honest people that I've ever watched. Because like the first week people were like, oh, I can throw like 225 or like 275 when normally I go out and talk to people and they're like, yeah, dude, I throw 360s, 585 feet. Check it out. It was awesome.
Well,
I'm like, right.
It's a really interesting social experiment because in my mind, I was going straight to the whole internet distance thing. And I was thinking he was going to say like 400 or 450 or something. But he actually was super honest because you were in person.
It's incredible. This is a great topic because we've experienced this 3 weeks in a row now.
Yeah.
Where we're all guessing like this is what he's going to say, and they're very honest. So we found also that people are basing it off of the length of a hole. Like that's how they're determining. Because I've asked them, I said, how do you know? All right, so let's continue on here. We're going to ask him question number. Oh, by the way, that point goes to Nick. Okay, so here we go. Question number 2. 150 feet.
Yes.
All right, awesome. What is your favorite hole? You just played Maple Hill. Can I ask what layout you played?
We did red, white, blues.
Okay, so Old Glory.
Yep, we did.
Okay, so what is your favorite hole that you played today?
My favorite hole,
Okay, so.
This is where I have the advantage. I don't know how much you know Maple Hill.
I've played Maple Hill like 4 times. I've been there. I've only been there like 2 separate trips, but yeah.
So the Old Glory layout, the red, white, and blue. So you start on hole 1 red, 2 white, 3 blue, and you do that repeating throughout the whole course.
I actually played League one time where we did Old Glory.
Nice. I love the Old Glory layout. I actually think it's wicked fun. It's got a ton of deuce opportunities, and then there's a couple holes that are longer. It's a really, really fun one. If you guys are ever there, try out Old Glory layout.
Okay, so cool. I don't want to forget our live viewers right now, too. They're all responding. A lot of hole 8s are coming in, some hole 1s. If you're watching live, would you just give a comment here? We're going to let Matt guess first. Now, we don't expect you to get like red, white, or blue or gold correct, just the hole numbers. And again, closest to the hole, not based off vicinity. We've had that argument before. It's actually closest to the number, okay? So what are you going to guess, Matt?
Well, so I might need a little help because I did play Old Glory once, and I remember. So you know the hole that Paul Macbeth threw in, like the big downhill.
Yes, that's 13 downhill. 13.
That's what I thought. So, but on Old Glory, it's still 13.
Yep.
I know it's a different pin position. That's the one I was going to pick because I remember that was the most fun one in my mind.
Yeah.
But I'm a lefty, so maybe I have a different view of everything.
Right, because hole 8 white, 9 blue.
No, that's actually not the same hole.
No.
It's the same tee-pad location in a way. It's at the top of the hill, but it plays to a shorter basket. It's a shorter basket off to the right, not down in the hole, not down in the pipe. So, do you want to stick with that hole? So that would actually be 11 red.
Yeah, let's see that.
Okay.
11 red. All right. I think I've said this 2 weeks in a row now, or maybe I said it last week. But I think in the Old Glory, hole 8 goes over the water for the white position, which is a super awesome hole. I think it's a little less than 300 feet to get across. So I'm going to go with hole 8, whites.
Okay. So let's see here.
Oh, never mind. He only throws 150 feet. He's honest. Hold on.
Okay.
All right. You know, I said my answer. I said my answer. Go ahead.
All right. Here we go. Let's continue on here and see what he says.
So it's the one kind of right by the water. I think it's 11. It's like right by the stone wall and then the fields to the right. I think that's 11. It's right before you go across the lake. That might be 10.
Okay, so downhill. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So you whether or not he knows what hole he's talking about, that's the funny part. But whether or not he's at 11, and so that point goes to Matt. Yeah. So awesome job there. Yeah. Not even local.
Subtract points from Nick for being off by 5.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Actually, we'll have to consider this for future games. Maybe you get bonus points for getting it exactly right. I think that's the first time that someone's got it exactly right. That's UDisc for you. Okay, so let's continue on. Let me see here. I'm going to pull it up full screen so people can enjoy it better. So question number 3. Here we go. This is a good one. Who is your favorite pro disc golfer?
Oh, man.
Okay, so who is your favorite pro disc golfer? Does UDisc have a profile option? You think I would know that as a player? Like where I can create like a profile, like here's my favorite disc and players? Or is it just like discs?
No, there's nothing to like say who you like. Yes, not yet.
Okay, we're just making sure. You said you wouldn't cheat. No, okay. So
my hands are up in the air.
Yeah, no, I'm just messing around. So is it Nick first?
I think it's my guess.
Okay, so Nick's guessing. Who is he going to answer as his favorite pro disc golfer?
It's so hard because every week I just want to say Simon because he's so lovable, especially up here in New England. But I'm going to go with something different this week. We're going to say he looks like a Drew Gibson fan.
Drew Gibson. Now you're just drawing names out of a hat.
Exactly.
Okay, so Drew Gibson. All right, so Matt, what are you thinking?
Well, so this game is called Judge That Disc Golfer, and judging on his body language and the fact that he didn't quite say PDGA or understand what that was, I'm going to guess that he says he doesn't know any pro disc golfers.
That is
bold strategy.
Yeah, did this happen? What episode was that? We're only in episode 3. Was that the second week? It was with Hannah, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So no professional or no favorite pro, and Nick said Drew Gibson. So let's go ahead and see what he answers here.
I don't know any by name.
All right. Okay.
Shamefully so.
No, it's not shameful. We're glad you're able to share that. I was waiting for this to happen, and I'm sure, or I hope we just stumped you, Nick. I hope Matt Krueger just got a point on you.
Wow.
So somehow
Man,
Wow.
this is prescient. What is going
Yeah,
on
holy
here?
cow.
Wow, I just like read the future. I said, I hope this is what happened. So that's 2 points. That's 2 points for Matt.
Yeah.
Do you have a point, Nick?
I have one.
Okay, keep track of your points. I'm running the show here. Okay. Here we go. 2-1. Matt's in the lead. Here we go. Question number 4. How many discs are in your bag? Do you carry?
Can I count?
You can count.
All right. We'll count real quick. I'll even show the bag off too.
Nice. I was hoping he would show the bag.
Okay, so you got a little view of the bag there. How many discs are in his bag? This is, again, closest, not without going over. So those of you who are watching live right now, go ahead and submit your answer. How many discs are in this disc golfer's bag? For those of you listening to the podcast, if we've provided this to you, it seems more like a traditional type backpack. Okay, so Matt's answering first. Let's see here. Matt, what do you think? What's he going to answer?
So I'm a very analytical person, and I think based on the size of that bag and the fact that he didn't know the number, it's probably like 7.
I literally was going to say 7.
This happens. This happens every
Like,
week, Nick.
that
Whatever
just
you're going to
that
say,
just-
somebody's going to say.
Hannah did the same thing. I think in
And
2
Simon.
different answers. Yeah, and Simon as well.
Every week.
Actually, a lot of the people commenting right now are going double digits, so I'm going to go with one of theirs. I'm going to say 11.
Okay.
11 discs.
So 7 was Matt.
7. I like 7 better, to be honest, but since you chose it, I'm just going to go.
Okay,
Go
so
big.
here we go. Let's see what he answers. Okay, so he's got an answer, and you now have an idea, unless he's hiding a sleeve of 20 discs in there somehow.
I do.
All right, how many discs did you get?
I only have 8 discs.
Oh. 8 discs was the answer. Okay, moving on. Okay, so 8 discs. So that is another point. We need to like pipe in like crowd applause and whistling and all that for the future shows. But like,
oh, by the way, I've lost both weeks so far.
that's excellent.
Make it 3.
Yeah, it's got so now you're leading 3-1.
3-1.
I think there's enough questions left where he can tie it, but we'll see what happens here. The way you can fix that, and I thought about this the previous week, at this point, as long as Matt answers the same answer as you every single question from here on out, he wins.
Yeah.
Oh, I won't do that.
No, it's okay. So, but Nick's gonna Yeah, okay. So here we go. Let's go ahead and continue on asking the final, I believe it's 2 questions. On to our next question. How many aces do you have? Hole-in-ones.
I have.
Okay. How many aces does Quinn have in his he said he started 5 years ago, but he's only been playing the last 3 months again. I don't know how long his break was per se, but how many aces? This goes to Nick. So Nick, what do you think? How many aces does Quinn have?
2.
That was really quick.
Yeah,
2.
he's got 2. I know it. I got faith in Quinn.
Okay, so what is the live board answering here? We're going to let them answer. It's probably about like a 10-second delay. But Matt, what do you think? You haven't been wrong. Oh, no, he was off once.
He was off on the first one, yeah.
The first one,
we were both way off.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
The
First
distance.
one. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think he's going to answer for aces? What do you think?
I mean, I don't want to be a jerk, but I'm going to go with 0.
Don't last like 2 weeks. People have had 0 aces.
So
it's probably either 0 or some surprisingly high number.
I'm just hoping that he counts
We'll go
pyramids,
0.
pinks. I'm hoping he counts those as aces. I know he's got 2 of them. I know it, but it's probably going to be 0.
Once again, Matt has access to stat information. Now, I didn't ask him if he used UDisc, and I wished I had afterwards, but we didn't. So here we go. Let's see.
Well, I don't really know who he is, so I can't look it up anyway.
Quinn,
we just have first
we
names.
know first
Quinn.
name. Okay,
Quinn.
Here we go. Let's see what he says.
0, but I do have 2 where I hit the post. Didn't hit the basket, though. Doesn't count, but that's my only claim to fame right now.
All right.
Okay, so 0. Matt is our automatic winner at this point, but we're going to
I owe you lunch now.
Nick.
Oh, right.
Nick is going to owe the whole disc golf world lunch eventually. So just hold him to that when you see him. But okay, we're going to continue on.
I'm wishing for the best in these people, and they're letting me down.
Oh, This was a great point that Kent on the chat board said, unless there's a hole that's less than 150 feet. Did you think of that, Nick?
Oh, I was thinking of Pyramids Pinks, the
Okay.
pink course that's
Okay.
there.
All right.
So.
All right, shout out to Pyramids Pinks over there at Marshall Street. Okay, we have, I think it's only one more question left. I'll go ahead and pull it up here. I might be wrong, there might be two, but let's see here. We're gonna pull it up. Here we go. Bam. All right. Were you keeping track of your score today?
My buddy was.
Okay, so we might need some verification from him.
All right.
How many birdies?
Oh, I know the answer to that one.
How many? Oh, that's your clue, Nick. That's
that's
your clue, Matt. That's a clue for you. He knows how many. So, all right. How many birdies did you score during this round?
I had. You have to fact check me.
You're gonna have to fact check
me. Nice.
Why is this so funny? I couldn't get the question out. Oh, I know that answer. So, but to be fair, like, I know the answer, but he said clearly too at the same time. He's like, hey, I know because I just asked them in there at the pro shop. Yep. So he had to follow up and ask a question for some reason. So what do you think? Matt, you answer first here.
I'm going to go with 3.
3 birdies. That's not a bad guess, yeah. I think. I mean, that's not saying he ended 3 down.
No, because you play reds, 6 times on that layout?
Probably.
6 different holes are reds, mm-hmm. And then a couple white ones, I guess, would be birdieable. Let's go with, you said 3. I'm gonna go 4.
Okay, so that's he's hoping that it's 4 or more, and you're hoping it's 3 or less. So Matt's already our winner.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
but
Matt
here we go. Let's see what he said.
But I had 0 on that.
Oh,
I had 0, right? Yeah, I had 0. No birdies.
0 birdies. Okay.
I love the honesty.
I only got like 1 or 2 more. Oh, I have more. I didn't realize this. There was technically the chance for Nick to still catch up, but not anymore because I think.
Dude, I'm awful at this.
There was more to guess. Okay, so let's keep going here. Let's see what he says for these next questions. What is the craziest thing in all of your time playing disc golf? I know you came back recently. What is the craziest thing that you've ever seen happen, or that you've ever just seen on the disc golf course?
I personally seen.
And he asked like personally seen, and I follow up with like a nod. Okay, I say like yes, like what have you seen? So Nick, you go ahead and give the answer. So what have your answers been to date so far? The craziest things people have seen?
I think week number 1, I said someone saw a black bear. I think week number 2, I can't remember.
Said snakes. You did.
Did I say snakes?
Yeah. So
oh yeah, because there's always I'm gonna keep the animal thing going. This dude saw a moose at Maple Hill. He saw a moose.
This is great. So we got a trend here. So someone's answering.
I wish we had alligators in Mass. That'd be sick.
Kent is saying hitting the pole and almost acing. So there's a whole bunch of ideas. The first week somebody answered like back-to-back aces was like what they thought, or ricochet aces, or like so. Nick says a moose on the course. Or any course. We'll just say it's any course.
Water buffalo.
A moose. Okay. He's seen a moose while disc golfing. All right, Matt, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to use my detective skills and guess that it's somebody getting hit by a disc.
Ooh, interesting. So let's see what he says here. What's the craziest thing he's seen? All right.
I have seen people hit holes in ones, and they're absolutely crazy. They just dial that right in. It's an absolute dart. Okay, so a hole in one. All right, awesome. So to him, and this is interesting detective skills too, right? Like to him, like that's a huge deal to see somebody ace, especially having none and throwing 150 feet. So, okay, so I think it seems like I have one more question. You think I'd remember how many, but here we go. I think it's the final question. And I think that's it. Okay. Thank you for joining us. You want to give any shout outs to anybody? I'll give a shout out to my Spotify, Camp Sunshine. But thank you very much for having me on the show. Okay, so that is Judge, that disc golfer. So we have our third ever winner who is not Nick.
Yeah.
Named Matt Krueger. So congratulations to him. We're really happy for you.
That dude was super cool, Gwen. Super honest.
Yeah.
And all these people, I keep thinking they're going to be like these 450-foot power throwers, and they're just not.
So awesome. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. We did bump it earlier today. We're just trying that out. Let us know what you think. Do you like it at the end? Do you like it here better or what? But we're going to get into some serious topics now, such as, I think we already alluded to it earlier, but if you're on here now, we're interested in your feedback. We did a poll in a Facebook group called Disc Golf Discussions. Shout out to them. It's a great place if you're interested in talking anything disc golf, which we are. The topic is, have you ever got hit by a disc golf disc? Have you ever seen somebody get hit by a disc golf disc? Have you been hit by a disc golf disc?
What made you think of this topic, Matt?
Okay, I thought you'd never ask. So here, I have a backyard course, and when I say backyard course, I mean I'm using 7 baskets and probably 7 tee pads, but I just play there. You couldn't put more than a card, like force them out on there, or else you'd be hitting each other. Like it's just mix match all over. But you can play fairly legitimate holes. I mean, maybe the furthest one is 400 feet, but like there's only 1 or 2 of those. But like from a tee pad towards my house, throwing in a direction towards my house, and it's slightly uphill. You're going to know where I'm going with this when I say I didn't realize my wife was sitting on the deck reading a book, and I threw a full drive shot trying to reach a basket, which is parked next to my house. And I asked my 10-year-old son, Hunter, I said, do you think that's far enough to hit the deck? And no answer because it was in flight. And next thing you know, I see my wife just jump up like, whoa, like surprise. And like, I'm like, did I just hit the house? And then she's like, you just hit me. And she picks up my 1-year-old, which was also there sitting right next to her. I mean, I'm talking like major accident. My heart like kind of sank. And I tell my sons who were playing with me, I said, I think we're done now. And I went right in, obviously, to make sure and take care of and make sure it was all set and apologize. And her arm to this point actually it kind of broke the skin, like kind of like to where it's kind of like scabbed a little bit and bruised. She bruises easily, but like it's significant. It was a driver. It was a destroyer, if I'm being honest. So like
it's a 200-foot hole, guys.
Let's ask me, how far can I throw a disc? Internet distance? Okay. So that topic came up, and I can think back to one other time for me. This was early on when I started playing. My younger sister was out with us, and this was back when it was more like, I don't want to call it mob golf, but we were just out recreationally throwing. And she was in front of me, like getting her disc from a shot, and I threw a shot and I hit her. I think it was in the leg. It might have been in the face. I can't remember. I blocked it out, but like I hit her. And then you already mentioned you might have, maybe not. Matt, like, have you ever been hit by a disc or hit anybody or observed it?
I've not been hit by somebody that I wasn't playing catch with. Nice. So, I mean, there's been accidents before where we're playing catch and you're not paying attention and you get hit or something like that. But maybe I feel like I have a vague memory of getting hit like when I first started playing, but I'm not sure if it actually happened. But I have witnessed somebody get hit pretty badly. So yeah, I've been there.
So
that's actually a funny story, but I don't know if we have time for it.
Well, if it's you're saying about getting hit or somebody getting hit?
Yeah, I'll make it brief.
Yeah, so, go ahead. This is the topic.
Party.
This is the time. Share the story for sure.
Sure. So I was participating in a bachelor party. It was at Blue Ribbon Pines, and we were almost done with the course. And of course, there was some alcohol involved, and a guy on our card who wasn't very good threw a full-on drive like as hard as he could, and he just let it go early. Like it wasn't a grip lock, it was the opposite. Like he just let it go really early, and he just cranked this guy who was like only 100 feet away, but way off to the left. He just cranked him in the back of the head and like maybe his neck. And I remember what we did. We handed our friend a beer and we said, you run over there and you give this to this guy right now. And the guy, nice. he was gonna punch him, and he gave him the beer, and then he was happy.
Nice.
This is actually going to play into the topic. Like, we're going to actually ask that question. We're not there yet, but like, what do you do when that happens? Like, what happens? And for me, like I said, I was kind of like, I'm done playing disc golf. It kind of ruins disc golf in the moment. Like, it just flat out makes you feel
the mojo.
Yeah, you're just like, this is horrible. And we're actually going to listen. Actually, I should go ahead and pull that up for us here. Let's listen to a quick story from somebody here. They're going to share a story. I'm going to pull the audio up and you guys can listen along. So let's see. Here we go.
All right, the story goes like this. So I'm at Veterans Park in Arlington, Texas, home of the Veterans Park Open for umpteen years. I don't know. So I teaching my wife how to play. She's pretty competitive and pretty athletic anyway. She used to play kickball. So,
Can I just stop there for 1 second? Did you catch that? My wife is pretty competitive and athletic, and I'm not making fun of this, but I've never heard this before. She used to play kickball. Is that something that you have ever heard, like competitive kickball?
Yeah, intramurals, dude, in college. No, I'm just kidding. No, I've never heard of competitive kickball, but I'm sure it is out there.
Okay, continuing on.
She's getting the hang of it first couple of weeks. We're on hole 7, I believe, long, hyzer, kind of tight shot through some initial first woods. She's in the fairway. Told her, hey, that's the direction for the basket. Go ahead and here's your stance. I lined her up. I put her arm ready, right hand, backhand. So what I did was I stood behind her to watch, about 30 feet back and to the right. She grip locks, turns all the way around, probably 120 degrees, lets go of the disc, smacks me right in the stomach. Full speed with a 10-speed driver. Hurt like hell for quite a while. Ended up getting a little bruise from it, but nothing too crazy. I'm sure if she would have hit me in the forehead or the lip or something, it would have busted the skin open. But other than that, it wasn't too bad, but pretty funny experience. Thanks for sharing.
Okay, so that was his story. Nick, can you give us the stats real quick on like what our poll showed before we went into this? It's very relevant.
Yeah, so Matt said earlier, he posted on the disc golf discussion group on Facebook, put up a poll. So there was 550 different votes. 499 people said they've either hit someone, seen someone get hit, or have been hit themselves. 91% of the respondents have been involved with the disc hitting someone. And
so
yeah,
that 91, that's a little roundup. I think it was like 90.7. Now, Matt, as you would know, collecting data, this is only of the respondents. So this question obviously triggered some emotional response from people when I ask if they've been hit or seen someone. Like they want to respond. So that I would assume that would be the majority of the respondents. But it's still surprising if we do this. The group I think I checked had 3,000 people in it. To have 500 respond saying that they've been hit or seen someone hit is significant.
It's pretty crazy. I was not expecting that much response on that question.
The stories that came up, I mean, if you want to, if you can pull up that group, just, and I'll continue on with another story. If you see any that stand out to you, maybe you can read off that story. But let's go ahead and continue on with another story here before we get into some of the final topics of this discussion. So here comes more feedback stories from our listeners.
Some years back, I was playing a Dare disc golf park in Corvallis, Oregon with some friends. We were just finishing up the 18th hole, and we all carpooled together, so we're about to head back to the car when one of my friends takes off running, yelling shotgun. So I told him, I'm going to hit you with the disc. So I throw a disc. I can't remember what disc it is. He's probably like 200 feet out. And I throw it on just a hyzer line, not thinking I was going to hit him. It pegs him in the back of the leg, and he kind of does like a faceplant onto the ground. We all ended up laughing at the end because we thought it was hilarious that by some chance he got hit with the disc.
Hey.
Okay, so I'm just trying to illustrate the different types. You had already shared one, Matt, like bachelor party or whatever it was, guys timeout. And then you had this other guy say like he's teaching somebody. And I saw a lot of respondents about like, hey, I was either teaching a kid or I was teaching my wife or significant other. And they do that. And then like this guy just shared like straight out, like I told him I was going to peg him as he's running for the shotgun to get the front seat. And he did. So there's that type of situation too. So Nick, you're continuing to look. I'm going to pull up another story
Yeah,
here.
well, I got one really quick. This
Okay,
kid,
what was interesting?
Yeah, one of the kids, Alex, he just wrote freak accident, dude grip locked the backhand and threw backwards. And then he sent a picture, 7 stitches, right between the eyes.
Ugh.
7 stitches.
Yeah, a disc to the face. I've got an interesting story that actually involved a legal situation that I'm going to share a little bit later here. But here's another story.
My name's Graham Davis. I'm from Lynchburg, Virginia, and this is how I unfortunately hit my dog. I have a absolutely great disc dog, loves being outside, running around, doesn't chase discs, doesn't pick them up, and is usually off the fairways and within eyesight, never bothering our pace of play. I stepped up to a hole that was approximately 500 foot open with wood lines on the right side. I was planning to throw a forehand force-over roller with a high-speed driver. As I released the disc, the driver hit the ground once, was about to hit the ground again, and doesn't my dog come sprinting out of the wood lines after a squirrel, and on the second bounce just short hops him in the rear hind quarter. At this time, the dog kind of came up limp, was whimpering and sort of hobbling back to me at the tee box. At this point, I felt horrible. Oh my God, as a dog owner, let me tell you. So I go to pick him up and comfort him as best as possible. He calms down a little bit, and I go to set him on the ground. And doesn't he see another squirrel? And boom, takes off. As if nothing ever happened. Doesn't even remember it. Happy dog. And that's how I hit my dog, with a forehand force-over. I'm sure that hurt, but he's a tough son of a gun.
Tough son of a gun. So that's another situation, right? Hitting an animal or a dog. And I unfortunately raised my hand that I have hit a dog. And I can tell you, an errant shot hitting a dog is another like heart stopper. Like it's just like the worst thing. Can you relate? I see people right now commenting live that they've got hit by their kids. Oh, wow. Somebody got hit by their son. If you know the junior player, Wyatt Mahoney, won multiple world championships. Apparently he hit his mom in the nose and she passed out. People are sharing live right now, and someone said they hit a squirrel. They felt so bad.
I think I'd feel more bad hitting an animal than I would a person, as much as that sounds awful. But one guy wrote, Trey, commented on the post. He wrote, casual round. I thought everyone had teed off, so I started walking along the right side of the fairway. Buddy yells he still needs to throw, so I step aside maybe 25 feet from the tee off to the right. He shanks it straight into my rib cage, full power drive. Pretty sure I broke a rib or two. And there are so many times where, like, I'll play with 2 of my buddies. We'll be out in a threesome, we'll go, and then the next day we're out in like a 5-some or a 6-some. You kind of lose track after everyone throws, and some people throw multiple, but there are so many times where I'll like start walking when one more person needs to throw. And that story just made me not ever want to walk in the path of one of my buddies' throws now. So thanks.
Incredible. So, okay. Do you have any thoughts that are standing out to you yet, Matt? We got a few more stories. Anything standing out you want to share?
Well, the dog thing definitely hits home for me. I just remembered right when I have a dog. He's like 9. He's almost 9 years old now. He's only 13 pounds. He's a little guy. But right when I got him, I took him disc golfing with me. And my buddy grabbed my disc out of the basket and was throwing it back to me, probably from 100 feet away. And it just pegged my dog right between the eyes. And he was bleeding like right above his eye. And he was like a 3.5-pound puppy or something. And it was a very bad experience. I totally forgot about that.
We used to play.
I was so mad at my buddy.
Yeah, we used to play at a church parking lot, and I actually remember, I'm pretty sure one of the teens or younger kids threw a disc, and didn't it hit Hunter? And like,
I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure Hunter is one of Matt's kids, but I'm pretty sure Hunter got nailed right in the side of the face and had a pretty whopping scar from that. But I'm sure Hunter's been hit. I'm sure you've been hit multiple times by your kids.
I teach them etiquette. But you have to understand, I have 4 sons under the age 10, but 3 of them are running around on our backyard course, and I'm teaching them. All right, here we go. I think there's 1 or 2 more stories, and then we can just kind of hit on some topics to see what we think about some of these etiquette questions. So, all right, here goes another story.
This is Fred Bocino in Grand Rapids, Michigan, talking about being hit and hitting others with a flying disc in disc golf. I've been hit and I have hit. In both cases, they were a matter of the imperfect or errant drives, and not so much a matter of careless disregard for others. My point, though, is here that the choice of the course, the placement of your courses, and the way you design the holes can influence the way that injuries may occur. The idea that a fairway is designed in a way where only perfect throwers will be playing there is a mistake. So in the one case where I hit somebody, it was early 1980s, and there was a sheltered picnic area somewhat close to the fairway, and I shanked one, and it hit the lady about my age right now. She was sitting at a picnic table, and my drive went into her back, and that resulted in me sending her a dozen roses. So that was basically a huge embarrassment just because I made a bad throw. In the case of my being hit, this was probably at the number one course in Michigan, a place called Clip City, a very well-designed course. And the shot that hit me was more or less a freak accident, if you will. It was a drive off the tee in the preceding hole, the earlier hole. I had just completed that hole. And the driver there shanked one probably in the same direction, but with more power than I had in the 80s. And it managed to get through this gap in the trees and got me while I was standing at the tee for my next drive. And it got me right between the shoulder blades. And this is the point is made is this was not a poorly designed course. This is one of the best courses. It's been named number one in the country in prior years.
Okay, so we heard stories from people here, Nick. You read some stories. We had a large response. We've heard all different across the spectrum of ways that this has happened. Can I ask this question just to get both of your guys' input on this and to share with our listeners? Is it ever, I'll use the word right to kind of polarize it here. Is it ever right to throw on a hole before somebody's cleared the hole? Is there ever a situation? What do you think, Nick?
Yes. If it's a par 4 or par 5 and they're well outside of your reach, or they tell you to throw on them. Obviously, like, it's not okay if you're going to throw on people where you know they're in a reachable range and they have no idea that you're about to throw. Like, that's obviously wrong in 1,000 different ways. But if you're playing a par 4 and they're well outside your driving range, I mean, for pace of play, especially if there's a group behind you, you might as well. I don't see an issue with throwing.
Do you have anything to add to that, Matt? That question?
Nope, I agree with Nick, but I think if you're ever not sure if you can throw it, a certain distance, then you should definitely not throw. If you're like, oh, I don't think I'm going to hit them, don't do it.
Yeah.
That was during my first, I think, year or two of disc golf. I didn't realize how far I could throw. It was kind of like one of those situations where it just happened. I threw really far and I hit somebody's umbrella. It was like during a rain round and I hit their umbrella, luckily. But yeah. What about like a situation where like it's a par 4, Nick, like you mentioned, or a 5, and there's a tee pad, let's say, like to another hole, but somewhere where like you could hit somebody? Like, do you wait for which hole do you wait to clear? Is there a rule on that, or like a best practice or etiquette?
I think the further hole is supposed to go first. So if you're teeing off on hole 11 and your drive could potentially hit the people on hole 12, I'm pretty sure the etiquette is hole 12 is supposed to tee off for pace of play reasons. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we could open UDisc and look at the rules, the PDGA rules, but I'm pretty sure that's accurate. So, like, if somebody's drive also, like, let's say, landed in your fairway, but they were from hole 12, we have to let them play. And it makes sense. Otherwise, you get major backups.
Yeah.
So, what do you do? What's your opinion? I'm going to ask Matt, and this is just literally to get your thought. What do you think you should do if you hit someone? What are you going to do? Let me put it that way. What are you going to do if you hit somebody with a disc? Knock on wood. Don't go out and do it tomorrow. But, like, what would you do?
I'm definitely going to run and give them a beer. No, I mean, obviously, you would profusely apologize and make sure that they're okay more than anything. You don't want to hurt somebody. But hopefully that never happens. I definitely am pretty careful. If I ever did hit somebody, it would probably be the last story that we heard where your shot just went through every single tree in the woods and ended up 3 fairways over and hit somebody.
What do you think, Nick?
At least that's what I would hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, accidentally, so I was playing a tournament earlier this year, like way early. I think it was December or January. I was playing a doubles tournament with a buddy, and we started off on a hole where you're actually teeing off inside of a barn, and you got to go out the double doors at the end, and the basket's out there. It's kind of a blind shot, but there were people, when you start up a tournament, there were people putting on our basket. We should have been putting on hole 16, but it was kind of a far walk, so we were going to throw our drives and then go outside and putt on 17 before the 2-minute warning. Anyways, one of my shots faded off left, hit my buddy Gage. I felt bad. He was super ticked about it, respectfully so. But it was kind of just like, yo, dude, sorry. Like, didn't see you guys there. And then you just kind of hope it's better at that point. But I think if I saw someone and knowingly threw on them and then hit them, I would just, yeah, like you said, apologize profusely. And like, I don't know. I would hope I would never do that.
So interesting point, and we are going to move on to this point about golf in just a second here, golf versus disc golf. But somebody just said they think that maybe lefties have more of an issue than righties do, and that's an interesting point I haven't considered. It's possible due to, and maybe this is incorrect.
Course design.
Course design.
I'm a lefty.
Okay, okay. So as a lefty, do you feel like a lot of courses? Now we're getting off topic. Are designed more for righties typically? I know that's kind of like.
I mean, I like to think that I never step up to a hole and think that it's designed for a certain handedness, because you should be able to throw every shot on the course.
Yes.
And as a lefty, like, I'm sure you guys have noticed when you play with lefties, like, we're good at throwing annies. Like, we just have to be, because either we're good at forehands or annies. You have to pick one, because there are a lot of left turning holes. But I wouldn't say that lefties are going to hit people because of that.
Yeah. So that I think sometimes I get where the person's saying, like, I'm kind of like thinking of holes at Maple Hill, and when you throw down, say, like, hole 11 at Maple Hill whites, you go straight into the field. It's like a 450-foot shot. The pad for hole 12, though, is to the right side of that, say 380, 400 feet. So I guess as a lefty, if you don't get the power and you're going to hyzer out, you're literally going to hyzer right into 12's tee pad. I mean, even as a righty, when you turn it over too much, we always have to yell for it, the people.
Nick,
but
did you look at the show notes, or did I not put those in there? I got hit on hole 12 that you're actually talking about. I was standing down. This is at Maple Hill. Go look at Jomez coverage. Look at hole 11, and you've seen him crush off there, because that's one of the big crusher holes. It's an elevated position into a field. And hole 12's tee pad is technically not a full shank, but for a pro, it would be a full shank. For the am, it happens often. Mm-hmm. But I'm down at the tee pad, standing there with my group, and I just get creamed in the shoulder, and I didn't see it coming at all. So it's a pure surprise. I thought my buddy just punched me like real hard in the shoulder for no reason, and I realized that's what happened. So yes, to your point, a lefty on that hole specifically for sure.
Yeah.
Matt, can UDisc add an option to warn players of an incoming disc? Like, it's got a GPS. I mean, we know who's throwing, what disc they're doing.
Oh yeah, definitely. We'll have that out tomorrow.
Yeah. Just start buzzing people when my disc goes.
Okay. And then one last story here. It'll take me like 20 seconds to tell. I met a guy originally in disc golf when I had like first started, who I hadn't seen in a long time, like following that period. And I was like, where did that guy go? Well, apparently he moved back to his home country of Brazil, because he had hit somebody with a disc that was wearing glasses and actually caused the person to go blind in one of their eyes. And because he couldn't face the legal charges and the suing and all that, he literally fled the country. That's my understanding of it. I haven't talked to him about that, but that I've never seen him again. And it just kind of makes sense after I heard the story. So that is crazy. Obviously, bad scenarios can happen from getting hit with a disc. But if you've been hit with a disc, would you guys go ahead and just comment your answers here? Write us. Let us know of a scenario that might be very interesting for us to hear. So we're going to move on to this next topic. And so by segue of doing that, I worked on a golf course for a while, actually. Back when I was 16 or 17, I worked on a golf course on the maintenance side for a while. And can I tell you, in the golf world, and I'm sure if you've ever played golf, whether it's Top Golf or whatever you used to do with golf, when you see a maintenance guy out there, especially at a driving range, what are you trying to do?
Well, at Top Golf, you're trying to hit the guy who's collecting all the golf balls every time. You're going for him.
So have you ever successfully hit him or the cart?
I've seen people do it. I personally have not. I'm so bad at golf. But I have seen people do it.
Okay. So I was driving a Gator as the maintenance crew down one of these like service roads, and somebody creamed a ball. I mean, straight towards us. And I'm driving kind of down the road in the same direction as they're hitting towards me. And I remember seeing this missile coming in, and I just ducked. Literally while I'm driving, I just ducked down and it just smashed the plexiglass. I mean, like, it would have really seriously hurt me. So, like, here's my point. We're just moving into golf, but that was my segue to get into golf. Okay, did you like that? What'd you think, Matt? Good segue.
Super smooth.
If you got hit by a golf ball, comment now. Is it going to hurt worse? I guess that's hard to know. You'd have to define it. But to get in general, getting hit by a golf ball or getting hit by a disc? What do you think, Nick?
I mean, a golf ball is coming at you a lot faster than a disc is. I feel like at the start of a swing, but I don't know. Maybe towards the end of a flight of a disc golf disc, it would hurt more. Personally, I think, dude, I would not want to step anywhere near someone who's driving and hitting a golf ball. I don't want to be anywhere near that and get hit.
What do you think, Matt? This is like the show Jackass. Would you rather take a shot from a golf ball or a disc? Let's put it this way. Let's do criteria from 100 feet.
Oh, a disc.
From 100 feet. 100 feet. I mean, in ball golf, 100 feet is pretty close. So.
Yeah, and that ball's coming at you over 140 miles per hour, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
but most people in disc golf can't throw over 70. I'm saying most people, like there's obviously the 1%ers who can, but most people cannot throw it over 70 miles per hour, so I'll take my chances.
And that's the thing. I'm going back to my physics here and thinking of how it's the square of the velocity that is the amount of energy you're getting hit with. So it's probably, honestly, the golf ball might hurt a lot more.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough because the disc is beveled and the ball is round. And there's too many variables.
Too many variables.
Give a good answer.
Okay, so let's just get this question out of the way. Are you ready? Some people are going to be surprised that we can even ask this question because it doesn't seem like a question to a lot of people that has relevance to be talked about. But here we go. You ready? What do you think about this? Is disc golf easier than golf? What is your literal initial reaction?
Straight up, he's just like,
he said it, but I want to make sure we hear it. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, disc golf is easier than golf for sure. And there's a few reasons for that, in my opinion. I mean, really putting, it all comes down to putting. In ball golf, putting is really where you separate like good players from not as good players. And in disc golf, putting is very much easier. Just the nature of it. You know, what is a putt in disc golf and what is a putt in ball golf? You could have a putt in ball golf from 100 feet away because there's a green that's 100 feet wide or 200 feet wide even. Yep. There's some crazy greens out there. So in my opinion, ball golf is significantly harder. You're hitting balls, like they measure in yards and we measure in feet, but the distances of our holes, just the number is about the same. Mm-hmm. So that means that their holes are 3 times as long and they're hitting a much smaller ball to a much smaller target.
Yes. Let me ask you this. Would the sword swallower say it's easier to swallow a sword than juggle 10 balls to the person who can juggle 10 balls? Would they say, hey, juggling 10 balls is harder than sword swallowing? Or would the juggler say, man, sword swallowing is definitely harder. I can juggle 10 balls. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, which one's tougher there?
Well, I don't think that those are really related like disc golf and ball golf are.
Okay.
I mean, disc golf and ball golf, it's the same objective. You're both trying to get an object into a target. Whereas putting a sword down your mouth or juggling a ball, like that's totally different things. That's just how I feel.
No, that's fine. So what do you think about, and I'm going to argue this point because I actually think I have where I want to go with this, but I want you guys to keep sharing for sure. What about Tiger Woods looking into the face of Michael Jordan? And now let's take away the news and TMZ and all those people that are going to say, oh, how full of himself he is. Like, is Tiger Woods going to say golf is harder to play than basketball at the same level that Michael Jordan is? I just picked 2 of the best. Like, which one are they going to say is harder to play?
Yeah. I think that's also hard to compare. I mean, I'm going to give an answer to it, but it's hard to compare because basketball being a team sport, Tiger Woods might say, yeah, that's harder because you have 4 other people on the court helping you out at all times. In golf, it's you versus the elements and the course and everything like that. So I think kind of where in golf, you're pretty much playing you versus the field, as in like 1v1v, 1v1. You could almost equate that to maybe more tennis. So Roger Federer, Nadal and everyone like that. I don't know. It's weird. I think personally, I look at golf as being one of the hardest sports, and especially one of the hardest sports to get good at, only in the sense that it's probably the least accessible sport when it comes to money. Like basketball, you can go out and buy a $40 basketball. You can go to the public park and you shoot hoops for the next 6 hours. You can't. You got to go to a driving range and you got to pay $10 for a bucket of balls, or you got to go to a golf course. You got to pay $60 with a cart to go play around. And at the same time, you're not really like. I never played golf because I mean, I've obviously played golf before, but I've never said, oh yeah, I want to get really good at golf. And so this is probably one of the reasons why I haven't done it. But when I go out disc golfing, there are sometimes in my practice rounds where I don't leave the hole until I birdie it. In golf, I feel like if I was to do the same thing, I would not finish 18 holes in like 3 days time span, because I obviously just wouldn't birdie every single hole at some point that round. I just feel like it's easier to get better at disc golf than it is regular golf.
So I'm going to agree with that. Yeah,
I was going to say you're also not allowed to do that in ball golf, like because there's tee times.
Yeah,
there's very frowned on to even hit one extra shot.
Exactly.
A lot of the time.
But so that's definitely a factor here in the discussion, in that maybe you can't get as good as quick in golf because you're limited. You can only go to a golf course, or I guess a driving range, but like to actually play out a hole, you can only do it so much, and you're not going to play probably multiple golf rounds a day. So like the ramp up speed, I'll give this to both of you. The ramp up speed of disc golf is way faster. You could play 4 rounds a day if you wanted to, and you could get 4 times faster, better. I said that kind of funny, but yes, I agree with that. But that doesn't necessarily mean, and this is interesting. If I ask a golfer, okay, a golfer to go play disc golf, which is he going to say is easier?
Disc golf.
I mean,
I just
think it depends how long if they play one round, they might say disc golf is harder, but I think they would also understand the physics behind the whole thing, like the distances involved and the accuracy involved in golf is like clearly more challenging.
So let me ask this. If you take a touring PGA professional, okay, and you say, listen, you no longer are going to play golf. We just nuked golf. It's gone. But go play disc golf. We'll pay you the same amount of money. Is that PGA professional going to be able to say, let's assume that they want to, okay? Let's take away all the hypotheticals. Are they going to be able to become a top, I'm going to try to make it a little bit more specific, a top 20 PDGA golfer? The reason I do that is because the amount of people in the sport is not even close to the same. So do you think a PGA golfer, if they put their mind to it, could become a top 20 PDGA because it's easier?
I would say theoretically it could happen, but I would put my money on somebody that's in, a little bit more athletic sport. Like golf is certainly athletic, but I would put my money on like a basketball player or a hockey player or a baseball player, probably hockey or baseball over a ball golfer.
So help me. Is that because you're saying disc golf is harder?
I'm saying disc golf involves a more athletic movement because you are the club. In ball golf, you have a very highly manufactured, thing that people engineer to be able to hit a ball really far. Whereas distance in disc golf is about form and about athleticism and musculature and things like that. Whereas ball golf,
I think
there's some of that.
Yeah, and I feel like that's one of the few areas that disc golf could potentially be harder. But the thing is that if you can't drive well in golf, you're not going to reach anywhere close the distance that you need for a hole.
But why can't you drive well? Because you're not practicing enough. I don't think it's because it's harder. I think can we actually determine that it's harder? We can only do that, and I'm gonna give this out. You can only do that if you literally have the same person spending the same amount of time on each to say. But even then, what if it comes down to an athletic ability that's different? Do we say that that's harder because, well, they can't have that athletic ability, but the other does? Let me see if I have another question here that can bring this up, because I think we need to make this a more defined question. And so let me ask it this way. Is it harder? Which one takes more time to master?
Golf.
Definitely golf. I should have maybe prefaced this that I played a whole lot of ball golf in high school. Like I had season passes. I played every day, every summer for 4 years.
Like I kind of think
disc golf.
Did you master golf?
I got to the point where I was shooting par occasionally.
Wow.
That's insane.
So I was pretty good at a certain point, and then I completely stopped playing, and I played like maybe 3 rounds in the last 10 years.
But so let me ask you this. And you got to understand, this is who I am, my personality I bring to the show. I'm not trying to pin you in a corner, but why then? And I don't know your rating in PDGA, and I don't care to know it right now.
I haven't
but like,
played a tournament in 4.5 years.
Okay,
so
but do you think, and maybe so back when you were playing disc golf more, you're saying that you believe that you could be way better at disc golf than you were golf?
Definitely, yeah.
And quicker.
Compared to, more quickly, for sure.
More quickly.
I mean, you definitely have some points that, like, ball golf is a little bit less accessible. You can't practice quite as much without spending a lot of money. It takes more time. And that is one of the things that draws people to disc golf too. But at the same time, like, having played both, just, the distances involved, the like hand-eye coordination, the judging of distances is so much harder in ball golf, because you can stand there and say, like in disc golf, you can stand there and you pretty much always know, if you played a lot, like, okay, that's somewhere between 300 to 330 feet away or something like that. Whereas in ball golf, it's like, I have no idea. Like, that could be like 200 yards away, or that could be 230 yards away. And the only reason you know is because they have markers in the ground that are like,
exactly.
This is 220 from the pin. And then you go, okay,
because you're playing 300 foot, or you're playing 350 yard holes. So
exactly.
Your depth perception from when you're trying to get onto the green is a lot further than what you're doing in disc golf. When the longest hole that I've ever played was, I think, hole 7 at Fox Run, which is just over 1,000 feet.
It's a crazy hole.
Yeah, it's a crazy hole, but it's very, like, after 3 shots, you're forehanding or approaching with your normal overstable fairway driver or mid-range. I think I throw a Raptor on my last shot on that hole. But it's pretty simple to, and maybe that's because I've been playing disc golf obviously a lot longer, but like, it's pretty easy to gauge the distance. Plus, look at the basket that you're looking at. In golf, you're looking at a skinny pole.
Yes.
You can't even see the hole in the ground.
But of course, a disc golfer is going to say golf is harder. Like, I can't understand. Like, I know I've only brought disc golfers on the show, but like, of course, a disc golfer is going to say it's harder, unless if they've mastered golf, then they may or may not say it, because maybe it came easy to them, right? It's an interesting proposition to say which one's harder, because is it harder to become Paul McBeth? And I'm not going to lie, there is something off the charts about him as a player. And you can look at stats, you can look at everything. Is it harder to become him or Tiger Woods? And you can say Tiger Woods, and that could be because you're measuring that against competition. You're saying it's harder because of the competition he's going against. I'm actually asking, is it the sport itself harder to master than disc golf? And then the reason, and I'll follow it up with this. Can you ever top out in disc golf? Like, hey, we've hit the end. I've mastered it. It's over. Or are you always needing to improve your game? And I would ask the same thing about golf. And if that's the case, are we just saying, because I know the answer to that is you can never top out, you always have something to improve on. So because of that, are we going to say which one takes longer to master? Is that what we're basing this off of? Like, which one takes longer? Because you're obviously, but I feel like it's always forever. Like, you're never going to top out. So how can we say that one's actually harder than the other?
Yeah, I think that's what's crazy about sports, is you can't really top out at it. Like, because there's going to be that mistake that you made at a tournament that you can always think, oh, I can improve on that. Like, I put it 98% from Circle 1 this week. I should have put it 100%. So there's always something that you can work on. But like disc golf and golf, like, you're never going to be perfect at them. Like, you'll never be perfect at a sport. If you're a high level competitor, you will never be perfect at it. You can obviously be the best you can be. And with disc golf, we have the rating system. So I don't think there's a limiter on what people can do, because like, Paul's the highest rated in the world, and Paul's also shot the highest rated round. He could beat both of those records that he has. And then after that, in 20 years, someone else can beat those records. Like, I don't think we'll ever be able to limit it unless you take out those certain things.
No. And so let me just say this as a recap. I personally believe that most people are evaluating this discussion, and I'm not discrediting that you guys have your own opinions on this, but most people are basing this off of the speed at which somebody can get better at it. Like, I can teach somebody new and they can actually go play a tournament in a couple weeks because, well, look at Brody Smith. That's a very relevant topic here. Yeah. I think we should have him on the show sometime and ask him about golf, because he actually did that at a touring level, I think. But there's 2 other points I just want to mention. One is age is relevant. I had somebody comment that to a 65-plus-year-old person, golf is actually disc golf is actually harder because, as you mentioned, the athletic ability. So I mean, age. So you have to define it. Obviously, the question. But then somebody else commented, and I just want to reiterate this point for our listeners who can't see these comments coming in here, is that someone said, well, Paul, think about it. Paul only won against 100 of the best players and Tiger against 1,000. But this goes back to my point. I'm not saying which is harder to win a championship. I'm saying which sport is harder, because which one is harder to win a championship is really not fair to Paul. Because if we had 1,000 top pros in the world for disc golf, would Paul win right now? And my answer is right now at this time, yes. And that does, so I think that is not part of the discussion as far as which is harder. That would be part of the discussion, which is harder to win. Okay. But not necessarily which one is harder. And I'm talking on a very practical level. And maybe I'm just offended because how many times have you heard, and this is to our listeners, I was sitting at work and someone looks over at me and I said, hey, you want to play disc golf? And he goes, no, that's too easy. I like the real thing. And I'm thinking to myself, have you ever thrown a disc? And I asked him that, and he said no. And it just really offended me that what apparently I'm doing, and I'm struggling hard as a 935 rated player to do, is so easy. And so that's where, I mean, and then we hear Simon, and I'm just going to put it out there, right? In his vlog, you've been on his vlog, Nick.
Yeah.
And have you ever golfed with Simon?
I've played indoor golfing simulators with Simon, yeah.
Is he good at golf?
He's better than the average person who never plays. Like he can hit the ball fairly well.
Yeah, and so I heard him in one of his vlogs, shout out to his vlogs. He said he said golf compared to disc golf, like disc golf is really easy. Like this is from Simon's mouth. Now, just because he's Simon and he throws disc golf really well, to me, it sounds like, well, of course, you don't spend much time playing golf. Of course, that's harder to you. It's an interesting topic, at the very least to me. Matt Graham on the Nick and Matt show. I'm just making my points. If you agree with any of my points, I see some people agreeing here. Some people are totally disagreeing. Do you have any other thoughts, Matt, on this that have come up here in the last little bit?
I was just going to say that when I'm thinking about this, the reason that golf is so much harder to me is because if you're off even by a tiny amount, your angle when you're hitting that ball, your ball is going to go in the wrong direction way, 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 way further than a disc would. If your disc slips out a little bit, if you grip lock it a little bit, it's not going to end up terribly. You're not going to be like, literally 600 feet the wrong direction.
So disc golfers are luckier.
Okay, so
it's just physics. I mean, there's less velocity.
I 1,000% agree with that.
So
I mean, like you said, if you miss your line in disc golf, there are potential times that you're going to park the hole still. But if you miss your line in golf, like when that ball starts going to the right and slices, it ain't coming back. There's no S curve in golf. It's gone. Goodbye.
But that's another point.
Plus the wind.
But that makes another point to me. Golf only has like so many 3D paths through the air, X, Y, Z, whatever. And like golf, you can actually start going one direction, go the other direction. And if you have a really crazy throw, you can go the other direction.
In disc golf,
Yes. And so to me, you're actually adding more variables. And here's the point. You're talking about like, hey, if you let the angle a little off. Okay, that might be true if you're playing like Fountain Hills or like one of those courses that's wide open. But at Maple Hill, if you are a little off, you're punished to the max. There's OB on almost every hole. There's water everywhere. So
yeah, but at least your disc only went 100 feet and didn't go 600 feet.
But to your point, you can't throw a disc's max distance is way less. And so the whole distance is, you can't use that as a straight comparison, because I'm not saying go throw a disc golf disc on a golf course. I'm saying throw a disc golf. So meaning if 600 feet's the max distance, we have to do. So you talked about putting earlier, right? And you said like a 100-foot putt. I don't think you can go 100-foot putt disc golf to 100-foot. It's a different game. I mean, not a different. It's the same strategy or goal, but it's different. And so like, I personally wouldn't compare a 20-foot putt in golf to a 20-foot putt in disc golf. I would say that that's not comparable. Yeah. So we would compare a 20-foot putt in golf to maybe, honestly, a 90 or 100-foot putt in, well, maybe not that, I don't know, something in that range. My point is that doesn't make the sport easier or harder, in my opinion, because, again, the tools are different. You talked about The tool that was in your hand was designed in a special way to, ricochet a ball so far. And so let's do this. This is a different discussion. I'll kind of just wrap up on this. The players who started golf a long time ago, imagine if they looked at the golfers today. Do you think they would say the game was harder back then or today?
Well, that's the same thing disc golfers say. The game was harder back when Ken Climo and Barry Schultz were winning everything than it is now that Paul, Ricky, and Eagle and those players are winning everything because the technology advances. So, yeah, old timers are obviously going to say that it's easier nowadays, but at the same time, they all have the respect level, as in like what the top players in the world and the top distance players and everything like that, what they're doing is incredible in and of itself. But there's a case where you could say it's easier because of our technology. But at the same time, when technology grew in disc golf and golf, the courses also got bigger. So courses that, players were playing back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s for disc golf, when discs did, they were kind of like cheap plastic. You flipped them up, they turned to the right. No one really had a forehand, anything like that. Their holes were 200 to 300 feet, I feel like. Like, you could go back and look at Worlds, and they shoot negative 90 over 7-8 rounds or something like that. So it's insane. I don't know. Then you look at courses now like Northwoods Golds, where if you're a couple under par, like, you did an incredible thing. And I love that. I think that's the best way to compare disc golf to golf is like, we have courses where Fountain Hills, you go and shoot 17 down, and that puts you on lead card. But
that just means, and we can go on forever, I'll argue this point, but that just means that par is easier. That doesn't mean it's easier to throw the disc and do what you did. That just means par was easier. So if we're saying, is the competition easier? I'll give you that. Disc golf competition is way easier because there's not as many people at a high level. That will change eventually. If you say, is it easier to shoot under par in disc golf? I will give you that 100%. It's way easier. I do it. Yeah. And but I don't know that I can actually say that the actual physics. I'll give you this as well. I'll give you this as well. The ramp up is way faster. So in a sense, it's easier to get into and to ramp up. But when we start getting into that, I'm just going to say 1,000 rated plus. Is it actually easier to refine at the smallest detail of how I hold my thumb, the angle, the spin, the thoughts about the wind in your backswing, just all of it together? I feel like the human brain is doing just as much, if not more, than golf at the same time.
I don't know. I think so. One of the things, Matt was talking about earlier was the margin for error in golf is a lot higher than it is in disc golf. Like he was saying, if you mess up your drive, if you duff the ball in golf and you go 30 yards off the tee, you can't throw your driver again. In disc golf, sometimes if you mess your shot up, you can usually throw your driver again. You can run up to it. In golf, you don't put another tee in the ground, and so you lose however much distance just off of that. To par everything in disc golf is 1,000 times. It's easier to what's the UDisc bounce back, the bounce back stat.
Oh yeah,
is that what it's? Yeah, it's easier to have a higher bounce back stat in disc golf than it is golf. I think by 1,000%. Like I don't know. This argument's weird because you're comparing two different sports. What's that?
Sorry. I was just going to say ball golf is played on the ground and disc golf is played in the air.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think a lot of people don't think about. So in ball golf, your lie impacts so much what your potential for your next shot is. So your ball you can have a perfectly great drive, 300 yards up the center, and then it settles in a divot. And you get up there and you have to play it where it lies. So guess what? Like you said, you can't get your driver out. You're getting, like a 9-iron out and you're trying to just hack at the ground.
Yeah, you're position playing at that point.
Okay, so I'll just wrap this up by saying I think it's still a question about which would take longer to master, and
golf.
At this point, yes, and at this point I would actually say that's probably correct, but that doesn't mean necessarily that it's easier, because I think if you take 1,000 really good disc golfers, and I'm talking, let's say 1,040 plus, okay, in the future, and you have 1,000 golfers, like, we're going to be very impressed with the winner of disc golf almost as much as we are golf in the future if there's that many competitors vying for that position, because it's going to come down to the smallest detail. I
think this year's Worlds, last year's Worlds in Peoria really showed like very, very competitive, high level. Like that was the best Worlds to watch in a long time. And I think that was kind of one of the big moments in disc golf where it was like, holy cow, those dudes played absolutely amazing. Like Paul and Ricky's battle the last round was insane. Ricky was shredding it, and they were going shot for shot. So we're finally getting to that competitive nature where, I don't know, hopefully there are more people in contention at tournaments. You know, obviously I'm always rooting for Paul. He's one of my best friends. But yeah.
So that was great. Do you have any closing thoughts, Matt, on that? We're getting ready to shut down the show, but what do you think?
Well, my last thought is maybe just when you watch ball golf, even the guy that wins the tournament, he's not making every putt. When you watch disc golf, the guy that wins the tournament probably only missed one putt the whole day. And that's really where the differentiator comes to me, is just putting in disc golf is significantly easier. You're expected to make your putt when you get up there. In ball golf, you're not expected to make your putt unless, I think it's something like, don't quote me on this, but I feel like I read that it was something like a 5-foot putt for ball golfers, it's like 99% for pros. But as soon as you get out to like 10 feet, it's like 30% or something. Like it drops significantly.
Yeah. So,
whereas in disc golf, it's just like, if you're in the circle and you're a pro, like if you don't make it, we're surprised.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was just going to say. And to wrap this up, I'll get the last word to that point. If you have a tap in golf, we're talking like a foot or two away, like we would say that's really boring too. But I think what you'd have to do is look at where that stat drops off, like you just said, where it drops off from whatever it was, 5 feet or whatever you said. Look at where
3 feet. I can't.
Okay, but look at where that really drops off, and you actually have access to this, Matt, over at UDisc. Look at where that stat really drops off for footage distance, and I think that's where the comparable would be. And that's my point, saying like you're right. If the top winner is hitting every single putt, I don't think he's hitting every single putt. It's only by the way we've defined it, which is saying inside of whatever circle 2. But how many attempts were made from 68 feet or whatever? You know what I mean? Where they're not hitting those. You have those stats. I'm saying I think we can't compare it apples to apples. I hope people appreciated this conversation. Honestly, I love this topic. I think some people are going to totally just discredit it. But if you enjoyed this, would you just comment? Would you write us a message? Let us know your thoughts on it. We're going to wrap this show up. You got any closing thoughts, Nick?
No, that's just about it. Next week, we might talk about how do we make putting and disc golf harder.
Actually, it's not bad. So would you comment? Let us know what you'd be interested in us talking about. Thank you guys for joining. We're going to wrap this up. Until next week, this was the Nick and Matt Show. Thanks for joining us, Matt Krueger over at UDisc, and we look forward to what you guys continue to do over there. Have a good evening, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Peace out.
Thanks for tuning in to the Nick and Matt Show. Be sure to check us out on your favorite social platform and to subscribe on iTunes.